What is wellness actually? Is it all of them yoga girls? Is it all of the diet pills and supplements? Is it all of the mental health practices and that and only that? No, let's dive into it. So, hello there again, my darling humanoids, androids, reptiloids, asteroids, or whatever way you identify. So, you might remember that in the last video, I've mentioned this circle of wellness, right? So, if you're unaware, the current consideration in many fields is that all of these facets on the circle is essentially what we use to measure and determine the wellness levels or human welfare. Now, the system obviously has different interpretations and different variations, where some interpretations of the system only consider 6 aspects of human wellness, some consider 8, some consider 9, some consider all 12, which kind of resonates with astrology, which we will also get into at some point. But its essence and the reason why it's so important to consider this when you're thinking about the topics of wellness is that a lot of the times when people get actualized, so when a person strives to achieve a certain high degree or high level of self fulfillment, it's usually done in just one or just a few of these areas of wellness. So, as a consequence, when a person actually does end up reaching the high level that they were striving for, getting actualized, they still find themselves unwell. They still find their life unsatisfying. And why is that? So, again, the current theory is that it is because they don't look after all of the other aspects of their wellness. So, when I mention self actualization, that is typically going to be me referring to the super duper popular pyramid of human needs by Maslow, which, as you can see here, goes from basic physical needs to belonging, love, to self actualization needs of an individual, where self actualization means, once again, achieving a certain high status, and not just achieving a high status in some matter in their life, but actually becoming an active creator of that field of activity. So, fortunately for our generation, we have a lot of the previous generations to look back to understand what I mean when I say that a lot of individuals get actualized in just one area but totally abandon all of the others and still remain miserable at the end of their life. Because just if you look at a lot of the people from the older generation, especially, well, my parents' kind of generation, so boomers and so on and so forth, most of them ended up attempting to mostly fulfill their career goals. Some of them would be family goals, some of them would be athletic goals, so physical health goals, but it would usually be just one or maybe three maximum of all of those wellness goals. So, to give you just an easy example, what is the most common pattern? A person strives to earn a lot. Even in our generation, actually, it is noticeable, and people are still doing this mistake to this day. And that is exactly why I'm making this video, to prevent you from repeating the same mistake that every single generation has been making pretty much since the ancient times. So, a person is striving to earn a lot, once again. So what do? They put themselves fully into their career or occupation, whatever it is. If they're an entrepreneur, they put their full self into a business. They spend sleepless nights working on whatever they're working on, or they abandon their family emotionally in order to go and give their full presence, their full emotional attention to their workplace in order to be a good worker, or even in order to be a good boss. That also takes a lot of emotional strength out of a person. And what is the consequence of that typical example is that, as a result, when that person does get to an old age, first of all, their health is totally out of whack because they have wasted their emotional, mental energy on work, getting stressed, their cortisol levels raising, so on and so forth. And as a consequence of that, there's plenty of different symptoms. Their back hurts all the time because they were sitting there crooked at their job, or they get a lot of leg pain, just all sorts of pains. I'm not going to state that any other more severe illnesses are also caused by stress. However, I am going to heavily imply it in this sentence, because some research has shown that stress is almost a main reason for most illnesses in the human body, but I'm not gonna get into that yet. In addition to that, to escape the constant overload and unload themselves after work, the individual most likely participates in some addictive substances like alcohol or smoking in order to just cope, once again, with the stress or with the emotional burden of work. And so they cannot fully enjoy their adulthood or pension, which was originally the intention to get all of the money as to start with. At least from what the common consensus seems to be, is that, oh yeah, I'll just put in 100% into work and getting money for now, and then I'll enjoy myself when I'm older. But what happens is that the person puts themselves fully into work, fully into getting money, and then by the time they're older, they're so ill, so stressed out, so tired, that they literally do not have the capacity to actually enjoy themselves, because wherever they go, they're constantly in pain, or they can't even go anywhere. Or let's take the totally opposite example, which would be somebody who is, let's say, a writer or a scientist, who does not see monetary value as real, who looks down on all of the people chasing the cash, and understands that the real value of life is intellectual fulfillment. Or it's also their social life and the impact that they have on the environment and the people around them. They really, really want to improve society. But in that case, unfortunately, what happens a lot of the time is, because that person is putting so much effort into just striving to improve everything and everyone around themselves, they abandon themselves as well to a point of either physical deterioration, emotional burnout, or they don't end up supporting themselves enough financially to have a high quality of life, which as a consequence means that they can't have access to all of the services and goods that unfortunately our capitalist system makes us pay for with money. So as good as you might be, as intellectual as you might be, as giving and so on and so forth as you might be, you still need to look out for yourself. There needs to be a healthy balance between both chasing after money, seeking intellectual fulfillment, seeking to actualize yourself as having an impact on the world. And to note, those people that I have just mentioned, when striving for all of those fulfillments outside of themselves and the impact that they have on society or the interactions that they have with other people, oftentimes results in them also abandoning their home and their families. So, because there's so much impact on their emotional and physical well being, they don't have time and space to nurture those really, really close, heartfelt connections with their families, with their loved ones, with their children. And what is the consequence? People who are traumatized. Welcome to our generation where everybody needs therapy. But then that is also a difficult matter to resolve, because if you look instead at, for example, stay-at-home mothers who dedicate themselves fully to getting self-actualized as a mother and as a mother alone, another unfortunate pattern that seems to emerge is that they become fully financially dependent on their providers, whoever, whether it's a husband or their wife or their parents. And if something happens within the family unit, they are essentially forced to tolerate whatever is going on and just take it in. And they also have to take on all of the emotions and all of the stress of all of the close family members that they have to support. Because as the mother, you're there to console, to nurture all of the other people. And that also results in elevated stress and later in illness. So unfortunately, as good as those people are who are constantly present and there for everybody, who are essentially the emotional support system of our society, I'm sorry, but it seems that they also got it wrong, because they forget to look after themselves. So once again, as I always say, everything has to be in balance. From all of the above examples and in general this theory of wellness, essentially, once again, an individual needs to strive to balance all of these areas of their wellness as they're getting self-actualized. So where some areas of wellness complement each other and kind of go along and support each other, there is always one that is in opposition to the rest that, if abandoned, could increase efficiency, but if abandoned, ends up resulting in long-term consequences and issues. So really, it all just comes down to living with awareness and consciousness, similarly to what I mentioned in my previous videos. So how can you approach the subject with awareness? Well, once again, reflection and journaling, and really assessing and analyzing yourself truthfully and honestly. So when you're making really important choices in life of what to invest your time and energy into, always consider this wellness circle and always think, what would that area of investment which I'm considering result in? Would me investing this much time and energy into this matter result in me having to abandon some other area of my life? Would it have any detrimental impact on any other areas of my life? And how can I mitigate that? So always consider what is the opposite of the field of wellness which you're considering becoming actualized and fulfilled in, and think of how you can compensate for it. How can you make time for the opposite of what it is you are currently deciding to strive for? And of course, it's very difficult to always keep in mind all of these things, but that is once again where I think everybody really needs to get into journaling and written self-reflection. Because if you're tracking your time and energy spent on various matters across a day, a week, a month, a year, you can really start to visualize how much investment you're putting into each one of these wellness areas. And as a result, you can evaluate and reconsider if maybe you should incorporate more of something else, or research some practices and little things you can just put into your day just to make sure that that wellness area that is not your main concern currently can still remain at a good level. So let's say that you decide that your goal is to really invest into matters of the environment and ethics of all of the living creatures on Earth. So you start going to different events to support the local recycling groups, you start getting into renewable energy sources, you become vegan, you start planting trees with your friends, growing a garden, so on and so forth. And that's all great. But then you realize that the core issues of the whole meat eating issue, for example, is not the people, the consumers themselves. It is actually the companies and the big corporations and the big farming units that keep overproducing and butchering all of those poor animals in such large amounts. So what do you decide to do? You decide to go on a meeting or a rally, or even to hijack some big farm or some big company that does so much harm to our environment. So when you go to try to destroy some big farm or some big food production company, what are you really doing? You decide to block the production line. So you create issues within the company. And let's say you and your environmentally friendly bodies are successful in pretty much breaking the whole production line. But the thing is, once again, there are other people that work there. They're the owners of the company who, okay, you maybe don't have that much empathy for, but think about everybody else that is involved in the whole process. As a consequence of this group of environmentally friendly individuals blocking everything and breaking everything, all of these workers can't work anymore, therefore they can't earn money to pay for their homes and families. So as a result, yeah, maybe you saved a few cows for a few days, maybe months max. But what is the longer term impact? The longer term impact is that because of that company having problems, a lot of people are getting affected. So some of them might be struggling to pay rent. And as a consequence of you people being so good and so honorable, somebody might be getting evicted from their house and becoming homeless. And so, in the grand scheme of things, did you actually do that much good? Especially considering that the effect of that one protest is not actually as large, it doesn't change the whole industry. It was just one little situation. And on the grand scheme of things, it just created problems for other people. So, in that sense, you could say that you have forgotten or abandoned your spirituality in the sense of realizing that everything is interlinked. Every single action has consequences. So, any disruption to any part of this world that is major and forced will inevitably cause further harm and further unrest in the whole big system. Plus, to me, personally at least, spirituality really resonates with empathy. And so, yes, you in this particular scenario might have been empathetic to the environment, but you were not being empathetic to your own species, which is not that spiritual if you ask me. So the result was just a really unwise investment of time and energy, somebody getting evicted, somebody being unable to feed their family, and maybe a few cows being saved a few days of their lives until they're taken to a different butchery. But then, what would be the correct or the more reasonable way to approach you deciding to become actualized in matters of saving the environment? What would be the more empathetic way? Unfortunately, trying to achieve something in a perfect balanced state does take longer than just going straight through it, going straight for it, breaking through. Because to actually create change with the relationship between humans and the environment, especially as I unfortunately found out having studied architecture and stuff like that, you have to just over time work consistently and efficiently on changing people's thoughts and opinions. So, yes, a lot of people say that greenwashing and such matters are not effective, they're also bad, and there's no point in doing them, and if anything, they're detrimental to the whole earth saving cause. But the thing is, because of all of the greenwashing that so many companies have been doing, now pretty much everybody is aware that there's a problem in our environment, that there's a lot of problems in our environment. And why is that? Because of the oversaturation of marketing on this matter, because people were being made aware of the problem. So, yes, not everybody might be acting on this problem yet, but there's now a consistent push for big companies and corporations to act on it, because now that people have been made aware of the problem, there is now a moral pressure on everybody who works within the system to improve this relationship between, once again, human production, human lifestyle, and nature. Well, let's return to earlier examples. What would be a more wellness-centric approach to getting financial welfare? So the first consideration would, of course, be to do it in an ethical way, because obviously the easiest way to get rich fast is highly unethical. I'm not going to tell you what those methods are, because I think you can come up with them yourself. But the first consideration, once again, would be ethics of how you get the money. Are you getting them through honest means? And then another consideration would be your physical health while you're there striving for getting all of that good moolah. So you would need to consider how can you incorporate health checkups, how you would incorporate physical exercise into your daily routine, where although yes, maybe you set your priority to be working really hard or coming up with business ideas and manipulating the financial market, are there any ways that you can just take a pause at some point in your day to go outside and go enjoy nature? Maybe go find a bottle that is laying on the ground and recycle it, something like that. So I hope you can see what I'm trying to get onto here. It's all about setting an initial priority that you strive for, but then after you have set that priority, to not forget all of these other aspects that you still need to be fulfilled. And then when you're composing your timetable or to-do list for the day, for the week, once again for the month, really keep all of these aspects in mind and ensure that you fit in at least a little bit of every single aspect in some way. And that while you're getting actualized in whatever area you have selected to keep as your priority, how can you approach reaching for the full potential that you have in that area in a way that is also not just detrimental to all of the other areas of life, but is, if anything, supportive to them? How can you incorporate all of the other considerations of wellness into the work that you're doing? So, do you see what I'm saying here? The most optimal way to reach full fulfillment and self-actualization in life is to set your priorities and tasks in alignment with all of the other aspects of your life. So really channeling your work in such a way and arranging your life in such a way that all of these matters work to support and encourage each other. They work to amplify each other further. And yes, that might sound difficult or almost impossible to you right now, but with smart strategy and proper consideration of your actions and proper self-analysis, and once again, most importantly, journaling and self-reflection, it is actually entirely possible, believe me or not. If you want some advice on how to do it, feel free to go chat to me. You can find links and stuff like that in the description down below. You can reach me through the website, ask a question there. I'll be happy to answer. But so the key to reaching full fulfillment in life, at least in the up-to-date knowledge that I have of psychology and human wellness, is to consider every single aspect of your life and strategize, most importantly, your life in such a way that everything is in alignment and goes to support each other. And this way, reach full-on balance, happiness, and joy in how you're living. So yes, this video might have been short, but this is just the first part of what I'm intending to do here. So stay tuned for more. Make sure that you're subscribed, because trust me, all of this, what I'm chatting to you about, is leading up to something big. So if you want to see what all of this talk about wellness, fulfillment, joy, and all of these matters is leading to, then once again, subscribe. Press the like as well, just because, come on, it's nice. Be a good person. Be a moral human being. But for now, until the next video, stay well, enjoy yourself, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, peace, love, and light. Bye-bye.